Nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, so Mr. Van Orton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call the department's caseworker to the stand, Ms. Lee. And
Yes, sir.
I don't see her on my screen, but I'm sure she's there somewhere. All right, Ms. Lee, could you state your name for the court, please?
Deborah Lee.
And you are the caseworker for the child, Sarah Hunt, is that correct?
Yes.
And you have prepared a permanency report to the court, which has been furnished to the court and all the parties, is that correct?
Yes.
And where is Sarah currently placed?
She is in a fictive kin placement.
All right. And she is 7 years old, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what grade is she in school?
She's in 2nd grade.
Okay. And how is she doing health-wise? Is she doing all right?
Yes, sir, she is.
And how about in school?
She is prescribed. She's doing okay in school. She struggles with her attention and staying on task.
All right. And are the mother and father visiting the child?
The mother is, the father is not.
And do we know why the father's not visiting?
I do not know. We have a visitation plan in effect for him. He saw the child on January the 2nd, and that is the last time he's seen the child.
So visits are not regularly scheduled, except for when he contacts the department, you schedule a visit?
No, they're regularly scheduled on a weekly basis.
Okay, so the child knows it's the day for a father to visit and he doesn't appear. Is that upsetting to the child?
We stopped reminding the child of that to prevent her from becoming upset.
All right, thank you. That's what I was trying to get at. All right, and let me start with the mother. Is she complying with the service plan?
Yes.
And how is she doing on the service plan?
She is doing fantastic on the service plan. She's really able to articulate things she's learned. She's able to show the different behaviors in how to handle her children. I'm really amazed at how well she's doing.
What else does she have to complete before the department believes she could provide a safe and appropriate home for the child?
Well, we still have to, she has to complete individual therapy. She's also receiving, which she's attending individual therapy. She's receiving parent education in how to deal with children that are victims of sexual abuse. Then we're going to move on to family counseling, which we've kind of started here recently.
So that's between her and the child, is that correct? The mother and the child?
The mother and the child, and there is another child that we don't have custody of that is in the custody of the mother.
All right.
So the brother and sister have been separate for a little while, so we need to integrate the family back together.
And how often is the mother allowed to have visitation with the child?
She's allowed to have visitation at least once a week, but she typically gets visitation 2 or 3 times a week. And as of February 1st, we have started allowing unsupervised visitation with mother, which is going very well.
All right. And the unsupervised visitation, are there any restrictions on that?
No overnight at this point, but other than that, she can have visits every day if the child's not in school.
Thank you. And as to the father, how is he progressing with his service plan? Is he being compliant with his service plan?
No.
In what way?
He has not completed any of his service plan. He's not actively engaged. He has not received a substance abuse assessment. He has failed to report for any random drug testing. He has not gotten his psychological. He has not provided the department with proof of housing or income.
The report says that he still has.
Currently, I cannot contact,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
currently, I can't even contact him because his phone is disconnected and I do not have a new phone number.
Right. He is currently has an outstanding charge, a felony charge. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you been able to contact his bondsman about whether they might have a phone number they could share with you?
They have the same phone number I have, which is no longer in service.
Okay. And assuming that the mother continues progressing as she has, which sounds like she's doing a very good job, she's up to unsupervised visits, when do you think the department might be looking at something like a monitored return for the child to the mother?
I submitted that package on February the 8th. It was approved by my supervisor and it's currently pending approval from our program director.
All right, so the department is already looking at that and making sure you get approval through the chain of command. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And do you think that the permanency plan of placing the child back with the mother is in the child's best interest?
Yes.
And do you think it's in the best interest of the child that until that happens, she remain in her current placement?
Yes.
And do you believe that current placement is a safe and appropriate placement for the child?
Yes, I do.
All right. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Harrell,
I don't believe I have any questions at this time either, Judge.
Mr. Smith.
Just one question. Ms. Lee, you said that the father has missed every drug and alcohol assessment. Was one of those scheduled at a time he was in jail?
I don't recall the exact timing of them. It is very possible it may have been. I would have to go back and check my records. Sorry, I don't recall exactly when he was in and when he was released.
No further questions.
Yeah, we're on there. If you want to ask him to maybe go upstairs, Steve Longoria is up there. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Okay, and Ms. Baker?
Yes, Ms. Lee, we had, after I received a copy of the permanency report, I contacted you to see if there were any issues, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and there was some discussion about a return to monitor at that time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it's my understanding that you made a recommendation of return to monitor. CASA made a recommendation of return to monitor, but there was a supervisor that denied that request. Is that correct?
No, that is not, that is correct.
Okay,
Approved that request. It's pending approval from our program director.
okay. So do you have any, is it your recommendation? So let me rephrase my question. So it's your recommendation at the hearing today for a return to monitor?
I don't have the authority to approve that. I am waiting on approval of my return to monitor package from our program director.
And how long does that take?
I submitted it on February the 8th. It usually happens within 30 days.
Okay, but the judge has the power today to order a return to monitor, correct?
I believe the judge has the power to have any orders he wants.
Okay,
What he
and do you
deems
see any
necessary.
problems with the return to monitor at this point?
I have recommended it, but I don't have the authority to approve it.
Okay, so you think it's in the best interest based on your recommendation? Would that be fair?
Yes.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Ms. Lee?
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Van Orton, who's your next?
I would call the CASA advocate, Your Honor, and I apologize. I'm still I don't know her name. I'm sorry.
Is that Ms. Howell? You going to testify?
Your Honor,
Vinette.
Vinette Thompson is the CASA advocate volunteer. And she's ready to
All right.
testify.
Okay. Okay. And Ms. Thompson, were you sworn in?
I was.
Okay. All right. So you may proceed.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Thompson, would you state your name for the court, please?
Sure, Vinette Thompson.
And you are the court-appointed special advocate that has been appointed for the child. Is that correct?
Correct.
And well, let's get to the heart of the matter. You've heard the department's caseworker has made a recommendation to her supervisor and her program director that there be a monitored return. What is your position on the monitored return of the child?
Our position is that we agree. My supervisor, Tracy Howell, and I have actually been to the home that Miss Una Hunt resides in. And we have, looked around, and we have sat down with Una and her boyfriend and spoke about everything that was to happen. And they understand that when it is approved and it happens, that we will still monitor. We will still come unexpectedly, and that they are ready to take that on. And I didn't see anything that would stop me from agreeing that she could be there under a monitored supervision.
All right. And so as the voice of the child, you would recommend today a monitored return. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how often does CASA go out to monitor that when the child has been placed back in the parent's home?
This is my first CASA case, and I would have you ask Miss Howell, but I would assume that at the very least once a month.
Okay. How comfortable would you feel doing it more often than that? Do you think that would be helpful or not helpful?
I would feel comfortable doing it more often. I would also be involved in the education side of it as well, making sure that Sarah is acclimated as smoothly as possible, returning to her prior teacher that I understand she had a good relationship with, because she would be going back to the district she was in previous to leaving her home. And so I think that would help with that as well. She would be going to school with her brother. She's close to her brother. And so it would all be things she's familiar with, and that, between the education and the home life, I am willing and able to be there more than once a month.
Oh. And do you believe, and you're telling the court, you feel that's in her best interest?
I believe so.
All right. That's all the questions I'd have, Your Honor.
Mr. Harrell?
Let me get unmuted. Ms. Thompson, how is the child, Sarah, how does she feel about going home?
We have not said anything to her yet because we didn't know when it was going to happen. So that it has not been brought up because we didn't set it up and not know when it was going to happen. I base it on how much she loves being with her family. I've also been there at the home of the Collins family, who love her very much and have done a wonderful job with her.
One second, please. Ma'am, you need to slow down so I can take the record, please.
Oh, sure.
And while we're slowing down, let me ask it a different way. You're familiar with the child. Since I'm just stepping in today, I have not met this girl. Does she want to be home? Is she ready to go home?
She wants to be with her mother and her brother, yes. And she's very close to the boyfriend as well.
Okay. And again, you think this is in her best interest to have her return to monitor if the judge orders that today?
Yes, as long as everything's still therapy, everything stays the same, all her services, and that they're continued at the same way that the Collins have made sure that has happened. And that's what I would be looking at and monitoring.
And the Collins is the placement?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Smith?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Baker?
No questions.
All Okay, so Mr. Van Orden, anybody else?
Actually, Judge, I do have one more question for Ms. Thompson. Ma'am?
Go ahead.
Yes.
If the child is returned home to the mother, what do you believe the father's contact ought to be set by the court for?
I believe there should be no contact until he's been involved in his plan.
All right. Thank you. That's all I'd have, Your Honor.
All right, anything else for Ms. Thompson?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Van Orden, do you have any other witnesses?
I do not, Your Honor.
And Mr. Harrell, anybody?
No, Your Honor, I do not at this time.
And Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor.
And Ms. Baker?
I'd like to call Una Hunt.
You may.
See if I can view her.
Ms. Hunt, wave your hand in front of the camera so
There,
Ms.
I see.
Baker can
Okay.
see you.
So,
I'm here.
Una, are you Una Hunt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you've been participating in your services, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And today you're asking the court to enter an order allowing your daughter to return to your home under a monitor to return, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you did hear the CASA worker's position that with regard to the father, he's not to have any contact until he, I guess, participates in the plan or until they approve that. Are you do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready for it. I'm used to it.
Okay, but you will ensure if the court were to order a monitor return today, you would ensure that the father has no contact, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you agree that you wouldn't allow him into your home, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Van Orden?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, let me congratulate you on working so hard to get to the point you are today. You certainly deserve some credit, and it's a wonderful point. And so thank you for doing what we all wanted you to do, which is to be able to provide a safe and appropriate home for your daughter. So thank you for that, ma'am.
No, thank you.
And you understand that it's kind of the ninth inning if that happens, but you will still be required to continue to interact with services and programs set out by the department. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And you believe that this is what's best for your daughter and that you can provide a home that will be safe and appropriate. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to make you cry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're okay.
That's all I'd have, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Harrell?
Ms. Hunt, just to clarify, there is no contact between you and the child's father at this time?
No, sir.
And so you don't expect any to come up and you, to beat a dead horse here, you won't let him come around?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
No questions, Your Honor.
And Ms. Baker?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, anything else for Ms. Hunt?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any witnesses?
Nothing further from the department, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Harrell, do you know how much time either you or Miss Allen have had in this case?
I would say an hour at least, Judge.
And Mr. Smith?
1 hour.
And Ms. Baker?
2 hours, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. Barté, when's the next time we're going to want to come back and review this?
Your Honor, May 25th at 1:30 for a permanency review.
All right, so we'll come back on May 25th, but I'm going to order that the child will be returned on a monitored situation back to her mother's residence, and that the father will have no possession, no access to the child. I guess how soon?
We're going to do a separate order to send in for a judge for his signature on that one.
Probably have to.
Okay. So how soon will Sarah be able to be returned?
I will coordinate that between placement and Ms. Hunt, and I can facilitate it at their earliest convenient. I look for that to happen before following Monday, March the 1st.
Okay.
Why,
All right.
why
So
can't we do a return to monitor tomorrow?
Ma'am, it involves a lot of paperwork that I have to fill out, and my calendar is full tomorrow. I have things that I cannot push off.
well, who would be doing I guess, just the transport of the child from the current placement back to Miss Hunt?
It could be the mother, or it could be Miss Collins. I think they're going to do it jointly because they're going to move all her bedroom furniture also.
Judge, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
If we could use the time guidelines set by the worker and simply let the mother have an extended visit until that period, I think that would solve some of the administrative problems.
Okay.
I'd have no objection to that, Your Honor.
All right. So can Miss Hunt, go to the current placement and pick up Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
She's not going to be able to enroll her in school until I get her as an education decision maker. I will do that as soon as I possibly can.
Okay. So Miss Hunt, whoops. Did we lose? Okay. So Miss Hunt, when will you be able to make the drive to go pick up Sarah?
I can go today.
She's already in her car.
I can go.
Okay. Well, will somebody be able to get the word to, the placement facility that Miss Hunt is on her way?
Yes, sir. I'm on the call right now. I will make
Yes.
sure we will communicate and make sure. I will drive wherever I need to drive as well if I need to. Whatever we need to do to get her taken care of.
Okay. So what distance are we talking about from where Miss Hunt is to where Sarah is?
It's probably about a 40 to 45 minute drive.
Okay.
I'm in Richmond, Texas, and she's in Sealy.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a concern.
Okay. Miss Thompson?
Just about her education with the distance. If we don't have the papers to enroll her in her new school, how is that going to work?
Is the new school doing anything virtually?
I can answer that as far as the education decision maker on.
Okay. And
case.
who's talking now?
I'm sorry, this is Deborah Lee, the caseworker.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I believe that Miss Collins is going to have to withdraw Sarah from the school she's in because she's the education decision maker. I can make a new form. I can email it to Una. She can sign it, email it back. She can have it in her possession by tomorrow morning for the education decision maker. We can do that electronically.
Okay. And so will she be going to Sealy, elementary? Going
Yes.
to Selman?
I'm not sure which school, but it's in Sealy ISD.
It would be Sealy Elementary.
And was she enrolled there earlier?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'll just, I can contact Sealy Elementary, and if they need an order just saying that Sarah can be re-enrolled, and Miss Hunt, maybe if you're in Sealy now, why don't you head to the Sealy ISD and let them know this is happening, and find out if I send an order saying that Sarah can be re-enrolled, how quickly will she be able to go back to school? Will she be able to go back tomorrow? And just ask them.
Yes, sir.
I think that the school that she's currently going to offers virtual online classes as well. If I need to go up to the school and try to get them to transfer it to virtual until Una can get her registered in the Sealy school, I can look into that as well if I need to.
Okay. Well, I guess for now, Ms. Hunt, why don't you go to Sealy ISD and let them know that Sarah's coming back to Sealy, And I mean, I'll fax, an order to Sealy Elementary telling them that Sarah is coming back, and just as soon as they can do the administrative work, then she can be re-enrolled.
Yes, sir.
All right, so anything else?
I have a question.
Okay, wait, just have one person at a time. You have to identify yourself before you ask the question, so.
Yeah, this is Mr. Van Orton. Because it is a monitored return, Your Honor, we will need a new dismissal date on this. I don't know if one has, I don't know if we have a dismissal date yet. I'm sure Ms. Bartay will take care of that. But.
Okay, well, you could just put that in the order. We'll have the review in May, and then there can be another dismissal date.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Baker, did you have a question?
I did. This is Dana. I know on my calendar, there's a 5-month FGC follow-up for a go-to meeting at 9:30 in the morning. Is that still necessary?
Yes, ma'am. This is Deborah Lee. Yes, that's one of the things I have to attend tomorrow.
Okay, so is that something I need to be there or just Una?
It's helpful if the attorneys are there also.
Okay, that's answer my question. I'll log in. I was gonna see if I could free up my calendar. All right, thank you.
Ms. Bartay?
Yes, Judge. Currently, right now, our dismissal date on this case is September 27th, 2021.
Okay.
So what do we need to change it to? I'm creating the order right now. So
it's 180 days from the day of the monitored return. So would be the new dismissal date.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so if nothing else on this case, anybody who's involved with Sarah Hunt, and if you have nothing else, you can be excused. Again, Miss Hunt, again, go to Sealy School first and then head to Fort Bend County.
Thank you, Your Honor.
1 second, Judge. 1 second, Judge. There's a lady named Amy who was talking. I don't know what her last name is because it's not on the monitor.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. My last name is Collins.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then you can all be excused. The testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, Mr. Van Orton.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lee, would you state your name for the court, please?
Deborah Lee.
And you are the department's caseworker for the Hanson children, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you have prepared a permanency report for the court, which has been filed and submitted to the parties. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And the 3 children, Matthew, Abigail, and Nicole, are they in the same foster home?
Yes, they are.
And they are 4, 3, and 2, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming the foster mother has her hands full then.
Oh, yes.
How are the children doing?
The children are overall doing well. Their behaviors have improved. They're receiving speech therapy twice a month in the home. They're learning their ABCs and how to count and distinguish colors. And
All right, and they're all too young for school, is that correct?
that is correct.
And are they having any other health problems at this time?
Nicole, who is the youngest, pulled all of the hair out of the top of her head. She was seen by a pediatrician, and there is no medical reason for that. And she's not doing it any longer. And she's really too young to get a psychological exam on. She's 2.
All right, I understand. And let me start with the mother. Has she been compliant with her family service plan?
She is in compliance on some items and not on others.
What has she been doing in her family service plan?
Okay. She has reported for her random drug testing, and they've all been negative. That's really wonderful. She completed her psychological examination, but she didn't follow the recommendations. She was unsuccessfully discharged from individual therapy for missing 3 appointments in a row.
All right, and so what happens when a parent is unsuccessfully discharged from therapy?
They don't successfully complete the individual therapy, and this particular therapist does not want to accept Ms. Kellogg back because they've had some anger issues. Ms. Kellogg has yelled at her and things in the past. So I'm trying to locate a new therapist.
I see that one of the other things was that she was to participate in domestic violence education. Was that through her therapy or was that a separate program?
That is a separate program.
Has she been involved in domestic violence education?
No.
Has she attended parenting education or parenting classes?
She states she's attending parenting classes, but I have no certificate of completion.
And is she employed at this time?
I have not received proof of employment.
And how is she supporting herself if she's not employed?
She is currently living with a boyfriend.
Is the
They're
boyfriend
living-
involved? Is the boyfriend involved in any services?
No.
And what about the father of the children?
The father of the children has stated numerous times that he wants to relinquish his parental rights. However, he has not signed documents with his attorney, and I've had no contact with Mr. Hansen.
So he has not performed any of the programs and services set out in the family service plan,
He has not.
and is apparently not worried about his rights being terminated. In fact, has said he wishes them to be terminated.
Yes, he's stated that several times.
And is the current placement for the 3 children, is that a safe and appropriate placement?
Yes,
And is that in their best interest at this time?
yes, it is.
Has the department been able to look at any possible relative or kinship placements?
Yes, sir, we have.
And what happened there?
The relatives, they have some of Miss Kellogg's older children and are not willing or able to take any of the children she has now. There is another relative that only wants to take one of the sibling group, and the department does not feel it would be in the best interest to split this sibling group. There was a fictive kin named Miss Perez that wanted to be considered as placement at the beginning of the case, and she withdrew her intent.
So you have not been successful in finding a family that could take all 3 children?
No, we have not.
And do you think it's in their best interest for these 3 siblings to remain together?
Yes,
Are they bonded at this time?
yes, they are.
Do they have a good, loving relationship with each other?
Yes, they do.
Do you think, even though she has failed to complete many of the programs set out in the family service plan, does the mother appear to be motivated to try to get her children back?
From the behaviors I've observed, I'm going to say no.
That's all the questions I'd have of this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith.
Questions, Your Honor.
Yeah, Mr. Elick.
Miss Lee, isn't it true that some visits have been canceled because the children had play therapy scheduled, and then some visits with the mother have been canceled?
Some visits have been canceled due to one of the visits. There was therapy that was missed the week before because of the COVID exposure. There's been a visit last week that was canceled due to a storm. So yes, some visits have been canceled
Wait, I couldn't hear you. You said last week due to what? The storm?
Because of the storm, and that it was not safe for anybody to be driving on the highways.
Okay, so do you think it's in the children's best interest for them to not see their mother and go to play therapy? You think it's better for them to miss a visit?
I think it's better for them to receive the therapy that they need. They get play therapy, they get speech therapy. These kids have been victims of abuse and neglect.
So what therapy did they attend and miss the visit? Play therapy or speech therapy?
I don't recall off the top of my head what therapy it was. I know the circumstance surrounding it was.
And so, okay, that I guess they had missed the previous one. Is that what you were going to say?
No, that was not what I was going to say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Miss Kellogg has a transportation problem also. And part of our service plan and her visitation plan is she is to contact me the Friday before her visit to let me know if she's going to have a ride. So if it's going to be an in-person or a virtual visit. If I don't hear from her, I'm going to schedule a virtual visit.
And a virtual visit is a virtual visit. The children are in the foster home during that visit, correct?
Yes.
And is there a CPS worker there as well?
Yes.
And does the CPS worker try to eliminate distractions like TV or toys during that visit?
Yes, the CPS worker tries to keep the children engaged with the mother.
Do you know how long a typical virtual visit lasts in this case?
They can last anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes per child. Typically 30 minutes to an hour on most virtual visits.
Okay. And so Hope has lived with her current boyfriend since March 14th of last year, correct?
I don't recall the exact date.
Okay. And you've been out to visit the property?
I have been to the home once, yes, sir.
And do you know when that was?
I don't recall the exact date, but I was requested by Hope via text message that her landlord and her boyfriend do not want me back on that property.
Okay. So when you went to the property, did you see were there other children living on that property?
I could not attest to that because there's 4, 5, 6 different residents on that piece of property. The only one I actually one that Hope is living in.
Did you have any concern, like safety concerns, in the RV she's living in or at the property, if the children were to be there?
Yes, sir.
And what were those?
There was the drainage from the sink draining directly onto the ground. About 50 to 75 feet behind where Hope is living, there is a mobile home that has no skirting on it that the children could get underneath there and potentially pull down electrical wires and other things. There is numerous large dogs. I think Hope and her boyfriend have 3 large dogs, and then there was another large dog chained in a mobile home to the right of that residence. And my concern is they don't have rabies vaccinations. And they're breeding the dogs to sell the puppies, and mother dogs can get aggressive with their puppies like any dog will. There was no carbon monoxide detector in the RV. There's a lot of miscellaneous stuff in close proximity to where their RV is, such as car batteries, car parts, just a lot of clutter that could be a safety hazard for those children.
Have you met, I guess, her boyfriend?
I did meet him one time. He was standing outside with the dogs the time I visited.
Okay. Um, and Miss Kellogg does not have a car, correct?
I really don't know if she has a car because sometimes she says she has a car, but it's not working. She's going to get her driver's license and then she can drive the car. I really don't know.
So when was she discharged from therapy?
On January the 22nd of 2021.
And you've been trying to find another therapist for about a month then, correct?
Approximately, yes.
Is it fair to say CPS's concern is, she's not independent, she doesn't, she relies on her boyfriend financially?
I don't feel that that's a totally fair statement. Our concern is lack of progress on the family plan, no lack of any change of behavior. She's not demonstrating any skills she may have learned.
Any skills like parenting skills, job?
Parenting stuff she gets from individual therapy.
And how would you like
her
for
therapist just
how would you like for her to demonstrate those skills?
Well, they've been working on her anger and her impulses, and nothing's changing.
When you say nothing's changing, are you saying anger towards you, anger towards your children?
Anger towards myself, anger towards her therapist.
You said how many drug tests has she been given?
She's been given 2.
And she's passed both?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so drugs are not a concern of CPS.
No, but her medication management for her mental illness is a concern.
Okay, and can you be specific? I mean, are you saying she's not taking her medication, or what is your concern?
I have not been able to obtain any proof from Ms. Kellogg that she is taking her medication as prescribed.
And so that's your concern?
That's one of my concerns, yes.
Okay, do you have any other concerns?
Safe and stable housing.
So when you say stable housing, what do you mean by that?
At one point during this case, Ms. Kellogg contacted myself and her courtesy worker, stating that her and her boyfriend had been in a fight and that she had no place to live, no place to go. So we did some research and gave her all the homeless shelters in her area to contact. And the following week, they have, come to terms with their disagreement. And everything's fine, but she doesn't have a plan.
Well, and when, like a plan, are you saying a backup plan if they break up?
I'm saying a backup plan on how she's going to support these children.
Okay. In the event that she breaks up with her boyfriend, if they were to be placed back with her.
Her boyfriend is not a party to this case.
Well, I understand.
She has a history of having very combative relationships, and she doesn't have a plan on how she's going to care for her children. Every plan she's ever stated to the department has included her boyfriend.
And so is the department's position that she has to break up and move out with her boyfriend in order to get her children back?
No, sir, that is not the department's.
Would the department consider placing the children with her where she's living now with her boyfriend?
The department could consider it if it was safe. And I can't answer that because I'm not allowed to go back out and look at the home to see if any of the safety concerns have been corrected.
If the owners were to give you permission, would you agree to go out and do an updated, I guess, update your review or home study of her property?
Yes, I would.
And you stated that Wendy Perez, you were going to do a home study with her initially, but then she withdrew her consent.
That is correct.
Were there also some concerns with a CPS case, or there was some record about her as well, correct?
Yes, she's in the National Registry. Yes, sir.
Okay, I pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Wagner?
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, I've heard a lot of conversation about the department canceling visits. How many times would you say the department has canceled visitation between the children and their mother?
The entire case, probably 6 times.
Okay. And how many times has Ms. Kellogg canceled the visitations?
6 to 10 times.
Okay. Does she give you reasons for why she's not showing up to visits?
Yes, I have received reasons such as her ride has COVID. She thought she had a ride. She doesn't have a ride. I've received the message of her ride has COVID more than once.
Do you think that canceling these visits last minute is detrimental to the children?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have concerns with the children being around mom's boyfriend?
Yes, I do. He's not working services. I really don't have much information on him other than, a criminal background check. He has called me yelling and screaming and threatening to personally sue me. I believe he has done that to my supervisor as well, which kind of leads me to believe he may have a little bit of anger management.
Okay, and to be clear about this property that he's living on, what kind of dwellings are on the property?
There is a building, kind of looks like maybe a storage building. There is an RV. There's at least 2 mobile homes. I didn't walk the whole property. That was just what I could observe from my view at Ms. Kellogg's RV.
Do you have any idea who owns the property?
It is owned by one of the boyfriend's relatives, is what I've been told.
Okay, and so do you know, or do you have any documentation that they in fact have a right to keep the trailer on the property?
I have a handwritten letter stating that they can live there. They do not pay rent and they do not pay electric.
Okay, but once again, this is the boyfriend's family, correct?
Yes.
Have you been provided a contingency plan by the mother if her and the boyfriend are to break up?
No, I have not.
Is that a concern for the department?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did this case initiate due to issues with past boyfriends?
Yes.
Okay. Just for clarity's sake, from the department's perspective, what would mom need to do in order to get her kids back?
She needs to complete the service plan and be able to demonstrate some of the skills that she learned, such as parenting skills, anger management, how to avoid getting in, violent relationships.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Any other questions for Ms. Lee?
I have just a couple, Your Honor, if I may.
All right.
Ms. Lee, I've heard about the visits. How far is it from the residence of the mother to where she has the visits with the children?
Approximately 45 miles because the mother has moved into a different region.
And so the mother has moved during the dependency of the case?
Yes.
All right. And about getting onto the property, was it the property owners that didn't want you back on, the mother, her boyfriend? Who was telling you don't come back here?
I received a text message from Miss Kellogg stating that the property owners, the landlord, and her boyfriend do not want me back on that property.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Lee? If not, then Mr. Van Orton, who's your next witness?
I would call the CASA volunteer, Your Honor.
This is Megan Gilson.
Ms. Gilson, would you state or you actually just stated your name for the court. You are the court-appointed special advocate that is involved with the Hanson children, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you feel that their present placement is safe and appropriate for the children?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel at this time it is in their best interest that they remain in that placement?
Yes, sir.
And do you also believe that they have a good and loving bond with each other as siblings?
Yes, absolutely.
And ma'am, what have you had interactions with the mother?
Yes, sir. Her and I have been in contact throughout the case.
Okay. And does she realize that she is not fulfilling many of the goals in the family service plan, to your understanding?
To my understanding, it's kind of hard to say. She, I mean, I've been very clear with her that if she uses it as a checklist and checks off each requirement, that CPS will have to check them off with her. But it doesn't seem that much progress has been made, even though we've had personal talks about that as well.
Have you been to the home where the mother lives?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe it is a safe home for 3 children who are 4, 3, and 2?
No, sir.
And do you have any concerns from your talking with the mother or your experience as a volunteer about the boyfriend in the home?
We met the boyfriend when we were there for a visit, but we're in agreement with CPS that we don't know enough about him to safely say that he would or would not be a positive influence on the children.
That's all the questions I'd have of CASA, Your Honor. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Smith, any questions for Ms. Gilson?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Elick?
Ms. Gilson, how many times have you been to the property where the mother lives?
We've been there one time.
Okay. And what safety concerns did you personally have when you visited?
When my supervisor and I visited, the first thing that I noticed was there's a pool very close to the camper where the children would be staying, and it's not fenced, it's not covered. It would be easily accessible. The other concerns were there was a lot of equipment and what looked like kind of junk metal in front of the camper. There was, I mean, just vehicles and just kind of junk laying around in very close proximity to the camper. There were also large dogs that were both fenced up and some that were not.
And what I guess, what things would you need to know about her boyfriend? Have you met the boyfriend?
We briefly met him when we did the visit.
And have you been able to do a criminal background check or seen his criminal history?
I believe that my supervisor has requested that information, but I don't believe that we've received anything back.
Would you like to see him work services so you can get a better idea or get more information about him and I guess how he could interact with the children?
Yes, I mean, CASA's concern is that the dynamic that's been established between Mrs. Kellogg and her boyfriend is something that will obviously change if 3 toddlers are introduced into a small environment with them. And so, yes, we would like to see the boyfriend involved in services if the children are going to be placed back there. And we would like to observe how he interacts with the children as well.
And what would be the best way to observe how he would interact with the children?
I mean, personally, I think that if he attended the visits with mom, the supervised visits, that would be a good starting point.
Okay. Do you have any concerns about visits being canceled?
CASA has been informed anytime that a visit has been canceled by CPS or by the mother. Our concern is just that the children are going to suffer from the lack of bonding time with the mom.
Okay. Okay, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Wagner?
Just briefly, Ms. Gilson, did you say the children are doing well in their placement?
Yes, they are. They're thriving.
Okay. And from your perspective, do they need anything?
I don't believe so. I think that Nicole's hair pulling incidents has been, I mean, it was taken care of very quickly on the placement's part, and CASA as well as the department have addressed and spoken with the placement on possible causes, and we seem to have resolved it. The last that we talked with the placement, she was no longer having any issues. So we think that, yes, it absolutely is an ideal placement.
Okay, thank you. I pass the witness.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Gilson?
Not from the department, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Van Orden, do you have any other witnesses?
I do not. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith, any witnesses?
Maybe his audio doesn't work, Your Honor.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, so do you have any other witnesses, Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Elick.
Your Honor, I would like to call Hope Kellogg.
Okay. You may proceed.
Okay. Hope, please state your name for the record.
Hope Kellogg.
And you're the mother of the 3 children, correct?
Yes.
And are you currently, where are you right now?
In my house.
In your house? Okay. And is your boyfriend at work?
Yes.
And so, do you know how many visits you've missed because they were canceled because the children had to attend play therapy?
I know 2 weeks ago it was canceled 30 minutes prior to the visit. It was going to be a virtual visit because my car had broken down and we'd since got it fixed. It was supposed to be a virtual visit. 30 minutes prior to the call, she texted me saying that it was canceled. It's been canceled once. I know of another time before that it was canceled once because of therapy. So at least 2 times.
Okay.
And it's usually like 30 minutes before or the night before that they get canceled.
Do you think that's in your children's best interest?
No.
Do you feel like you've lost a lot of bonding time with your children since this case has been pending?
Yes and no. When I do go see my kids, the baby sits in my lap and plays with me, and my kids, the older two kids, play, and they kind of play by themselves, but they'll come up and like want me to throw the ball with them or stuff. They're really excited when they do see me in person.
So did you see your daughter's hair at the last visit in person?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe she pulled her own hair out?
I didn't hear the response.
Yes, I did see her hair.
Do you believe she pulled her own hair out?
I do not. It was there was a big bald spot that was completely bald. There under the bald spot was 2 inches, 3 inches of hair that looked like it had been shaved. And she had long hair in the back where all her other hair was cut.
Okay. So you believe someone could have used clippers?
Yes. They say there's a video, but they will not show me the video of her pulling her hair out due to confidentiality. They won't show me the video. I've asked.
Okay. And so are you working on getting your driver's license at this time?
Yes, I've scheduled 2 appointments. They've all been canceled because they have no staff for COVID right now.
And have you been trying to find a job?
Yes.
And is it difficult because of COVID?
It's difficult because of COVID, and it is difficult because my boyfriend does work. He leaves the house around 4:30 and doesn't come home till 6 o'clock at night. And
okay, do you want to get your kids back? I mean, are you serious about trying to get your kids back?
yes, I've done everything they've asked. I've gone to over 20 different parenting meetings. I've sent the meetings that the person directing the parenting classes has sent me. I've sent her the text messages on that. I've sent her text messages every time I've refilled my medications, every time they've upped the medications. I did complete the individual therapy. I was doing domestic violence therapy. And I did switch a new domestic violence therapist and was working with her. I told Deborah one week that my phone got shut off for a couple days, that I was not going to be able to attend. I was not going to be attend. Also, our Wi-Fi went out that day, so there was no way for me to get on and video chat. Another time I was on video chat and I took screenshots and sent it to her. It kept telling me waiting on host. I waited for 30 minutes plus for her to log in, and she never logged in. I even sent an email to her stating that I was online and showed her a screenshot of me waiting online.
So is it fair to say you dispute, the version that you missed 3 meetings?
Yes, I explained to her once I was waiting on the therapist, and another time my phone was off and the internet was off that day due to, I don't know, it goes off and on sometimes for days. And I told her that since my phone was off, I didn't know if I was going to be able to attend or not.
How long have you been living at your current residence?
I have been living at my current residence since March 14th, 2020.
And have you heard the testimony that when Miss Lee said that you called CPS and said you broke up with your boyfriend and you had nowhere to live?
Yes, that was many months ago. And he and I talked after that, and he told me as long as I was working on getting my kids back, if me and him were to break up, that I would be able to live at the house with my kids.
Okay. And worst case scenario, you would get a 30 days, move out in 30 days notice, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Do you have, much contact with your adoptive parents?
Yes, I do. I messaged my adoptive mom this morning.
Okay. But they are not willing, they cannot, I guess, care for your 3 children, correct?
No, sir. My mom is a pastor who travels out of the country a lot, and my oldest, they have my oldest daughter, but she's split between my ex-husband's home and my parents' home, and it works out for her perfectly.
Okay. Do you still have contact with Wendy Perez?
Yes, sir.
Is Wendy Perez the children's godmother?
Yes, sir.
And you also heard Miss Lee say she was fictive kin, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, if this scenario played out where you're kicked out or you break up with your boyfriend, is Miss Perez someone that you would call, if you needed help?
Yes, sir. She's been in my life for almost 2 years now, or over 2 years now.
You've been a tenant of hers in the past, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she would watch the kids, kind of babysit the kids for you?
Yes, sir.
And if you were to get the kids back, would she kind of be in that role again, or would you like to see her in that role again?
Yes, sir. My kids absolutely loved hanging out with her. They loved going to her house and seeing her and hanging out with her. She'd take them for 1 or 2 nights, and they were perfectly happy when they came back.
Now, you want the kids placed with you where you're currently residing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, if the judge or the court or CPS does not do that, would you like to see the kids possibly placed with Miss Perez?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like that, and the children know Miss Perez, correct?
Yes, sir. They've been in, she thrown birthday parties for him and everything since Matthew was 2 years old, or younger than that. She actually watched my 2 older kids when I had Nicole.
Okay. Now, you've heard the testimony about the safety concerns on the property you reside. Did you get the carbon monoxide detector?
Yes, sir. It is installed and a battery is in it, and it's been working.
Are there large dogs on the property?
There are 4 large dogs that are mine that are pinned up, and they are the gentlest dogs. We actually have my niece and nephew play with them weekly, and the mom has a big dog that she keeps inside but lets out to go to the bathroom at night when no one's outside.
Are there any young children that live on the property near where you stay?
Yes, sir. Directly behind the mom's house is Jessica and her boyfriend, which is my boyfriend's brother, and she has a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old.
Have you ever seen them get seriously hurt, or be in danger while you've lived there?
No, sir.
Is there
and also there is a 16-year-old that has lived on the property since he was 1 year old and has never been injured on the property either.
Is there a pool that is not fenced?
No, sir. We have taken that down since the visit. And when CASA came out to the house, they were working on putting a fence up around the pool, but they have taken the pool down since.
Would you say your relationship with your boyfriend is a violent relationship?
No, sir, not at all. We argue every once in a while, but we go our separate ways and we'll communicate later and talk, but there's no screaming involved. There's no any domestic relationship at all. We've never gotten into a fist fight or anything like that.
And
No.
would your boyfriend, would he consider doing some services so CPS and CASA can learn more about his parenting skill or skills with children?
I'm sure he would, but he works from 4:30 to 6 p.m. every day.
Okay. And so I guess going back to how this case started, was there allegations of a diaper rash or a chemical burn on your youngest?
Yes, it was a chemical burn. It was on her thigh, and it was from using a Huggies diaper, which she was allergic to.
Okay. And did you talk to a doctor about that?
I did talk to a doctor. They said it was a chemical burn. They said no need to bring her in. It was going away on its own. They weren't concerned about how it was because it was going down.
And did you also have a boyfriend that shot himself while he was at your house?
Yes, sir. It was at 3 o'clock in the morning while my kids were in their room asleep.
Okay. And you also heard allegations that you were suicidal. Is that true?
No.
I mean, were the children always well fed when they were with you?
Yes, sir. They would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They'd had fruit and snacks in between lunch and dinner and breakfast and lunch, and they had drinks. They eat whenever they were hungry. I had a pantry full of food. I had fridge and freezer full of food. They ate every day.
Okay, I passed the witness trial.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, what exactly are your plans if you and your boyfriend break up?
I've been talking to Wendy about possibly moving back there, but I don't see us breaking up.
So you're saying that if you do break up, you'll move back to Wendy's?
Yes.
And that was the home where the children were actually removed from, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And was Ms. Perez in fact taking your food stamps in exchange for rent?
That happened 1 month and that never happened again. And that was only because I could not cook food and she could cook us food.
Ma'am, where you're currently living, does anyone else on the property have CPS history?
My sister-in-law does, but they never go any further than coming out for a home check. It gets cleared within a day.
But they do have CPS history.
Yes.
Do you think that's a good influence on you?
Yes, because they've always passed their CPS cases. There's nothing wrong with their kids or their house or anything.
Their CPS cases, is there more than one?
As far as I know, there's only been 2. And they've passed within 2 days.
Okay, why is Miss Lee not welcome on the property?
Because she accused my boyfriend of smoking and cooking meth because of a propane bottle that sat in front of my house to hold a door open.
Is that the only reason?
No, she has not only accused him of smoking and doing that, she's also accused him of beating me, which is not true at all.
Okay, after today's court date, is the caseworker going to be welcome on the property?
I will have to talk to the landowner, but as they don't want her on the property because this is his family, and her accusing him of smoking and cooking meth and beating me is not true, and they don't feel like she should just be able to say stuff like that without any proof.
Do you understand it's going to be a major issue for getting your kids back if the caseworker is not welcome to see the home?
I do, but at the same time, I've said that other CPS workers can come out. I've said that the supervisor can come out. We're not saying CPS can't come out to the house. I just don't see how she's able to accuse him of doing stuff when she has never met him before.
You understand that Miss Lee is your caseworker, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you understand that you need to cooperate with her, correct?
I understand, but why should I be able to allow her to come onto my property and say stuff, make accusations, and accuse him of stuff when it's not true? She has no proof. He could lose his job. He can lose so much stuff for her accusing him of stuff like this.
Do you think the children need consistency with their visits?
Yes.
How many times have you canceled visits?
I've never canceled a visit. I've tried, if I do cancel visits, I tell them we can do the virtual visits. But as far as canceling, I've never canceled any visits that I'm aware of.
How many times have you canceled an in-person visit?
I've at least 2 was because my boyfriend was tested for COVID and it was 2 weeks. And I only said, and before his 2 weeks, his uncle, who his wife was taking me, was also tested for COVID, and it was determined him and his family had COVID. I've said it twice because of the fact that his uncle and him have both been having COVID tested.
How many times have you had transportation issues?
Besides the fact that the COVID, it's been at least 2 times because one time Jessica was having her son, and another time that I know of was a couple days ago. I told her I can do virtual visits because my car was broken down. We have since got the car went back to working order, and 30 minutes before the visit, she canceled the visit for therapy.
Do you think your kids have suffered through trauma?
No.
None whatsoever.
No. They were perfectly taken care of and in good health and everything the whole time they were with me.
So you think there's no need for therapy?
I do think that they need speech therapy, but they were getting speech therapy since Matthew was 1 year old. I've always had him and Abby in speech therapy.
Have you done anything to sabotage placement in this case?
No.
Have you called in an intake on the current placement?
Yes, I have, due to the fact that my daughter, I have pictures of one of my daughters covered in bruises that Deborah has sent me. I also have the hair pulling out, which was bald. It was not little pieces of hair. It was bald even like 2 or 3 weeks later.
When did you first receive the pictures of the bruising?
I received them back in July. I did not look closely at the pictures until one of my family members pointed out and looked at them, and I looked at them, and my Abby was covered in head to toe with bruises and had spots, like big circle scratches on her face that Deborah claimed was eczema. I've since talked to a doctor. I have talked to people that suffer with eczema, and I've been told that was not eczema.
Okay, however, you just called in the intake, didn't you? Ma'am, did you hear my question?
No,
How recently did you call in the intake?
I did not call the intake. It was my sister, and it was about a month ago when she pulled her hair out.
Okay. Did you hear Ms. Gilson's testimony that the children are thriving where they are?
They're not thriving.
Ma'am, that was not my question. Did you hear her testimony?
Yes, but they're not thriving.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Mr. Van Orton?
Thank you, ma'am. You said several times you made the statement that my car broke down. Do you have a car?
My boyfriend has a car that I do drive back and forth with him in the car.
So is that the car he uses to go to work from 4:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night?
Yes, sir, but there are other cars on the property that we use too.
Okay, so he has access to other cars besides yours.
Yes.
Is that right? And my belief is that what you're saying is, should you remain in the home with your boyfriend and the children will return to you, you would expect him, if you were not working, to help you support the children. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, but we do not pay rent and we do not pay electricity. The only thing we provide is food.
All right.
1 second, please. Good.
Thank you. And ma'am, you have, you have 4 large dogs. Was that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
And how much does it cost to feed the dogs every month?
We buy a 50-pound bag for $20 each week.
So about $80 a month.
Yes.
And so you're spending $80 a month for the dogs. I mean, I'm assuming they go to the vet once in a while and get whatever medicines they need. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, ma'am, you providing $80 a month for your dogs. Have you provided any income to help support your children?
What do you mean?
Well, ma'am, you're spending $80 a month for your 4 dogs. You have 3 children. Have you provided any monies to help support your 3 children?
Well, my 3 children are not with me right now, but I have car seats, I have clothes, I have everything they would need, basics, and we would provide food for them.
All right. And you are taking your medication, as I understand your testimony, on a regular basis?
Yes, sir. It sits on my table and I take it every morning. And I send her pictures of when I get them refilled.
Okay. Have you gotten any statements from your doctors about your medication that you provided to the department?
I've told, they have not given me anything, but they told me she is more than welcome to call them.
All right. And what medication are you taking now?
I'm on 2 different medications. One is Lameritrin, and it's my antidepressant bipolar medication, and then I am on hydroxyzine, which is an insomnia medication.
And just a few more questions, ma'am. Thank you. You said your boyfriend works every day from 4:30 in the morning till 6 in the evening, every 7 days a week?
Monday through Friday and Saturday, but not Sunday.
Okay. When does he sleep?
He sleeps at night when he comes home from work around 8 p.m. till 3:30 a.m.
Okay. So you and he basically right now are spending about 2 hours a day together except for Sundays. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's all I'd have, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, any other questions from Ms. Kellogg? Okay, Mr. Elick, who's your next?
Your Honor, my next witness is Jessica Rooker.
Yes, sir.
Hi, please state your name for the record.
Jessica Rooker.
And do you live on the same property as Miss Kellogg?
Yes, sir. I live directly behind the parents' house, which is not even maybe 5 feet away.
And do you have any children?
I have a 3-year-old girl and a 7-month-old boy.
And do you have CPS history?
I had 3 cases. They were all closed. The first one was due to a diaper rash that would not go away, and the antibiotics that they gave me was making it worse, but that one got closed within 2 days. Then I had a second one where my sister falsified called on me, and it was closed instantly. The only problem they had was the septic was overfilled, which we did that, and they closed it instantly after they came back out and seen it was fixed. Then the third one that was just called was because I was still working and gonna let Hope babysit my kids, and someone called CPS out here on me saying that she could not babysit my kids because she had a abuse and neglect case, but she got a congratulations and not a she can't do that from Deborah.
Okay. Do you believe it's dangerous for children on that property?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you believe it is dangerous for children to be on the property where you reside?
No, sir. My children have been living out here since my daughter was a newborn, and she's about to be 4 years old in November.
Do your children have access or contact with the dogs?
My daughter goes into the pens with Hope's dog whenever she wants to. She basically grew up around the dogs. They're lovable, very sweet. She even goes in and feeds them sometimes with Hope and the boyfriend. She also bathes them from time to time. She has no violence with the dogs whatsoever. She could be rough with the dogs sometimes because she's a toddler. The dogs would just lick her in the face. And that's about it. There's no biting, basically no I'm gonna attack you mode with the dog.
Are there dangerous electrical wires on the property?
My father-in-law's property is not leveled right, which we are currently working on it, and he does have wires hanging out, but we were told that it's his house. We are not allowed to put a fence around that house.
Okay.
But as far as the main, because we do have an electric line that runs through the yard, but it's buried, so no kids can get hurt.
Do you feel comfortable having Hope babysit your children, but CPS called you and said that wasn't allowed?
Yes, sir. I basically told Hope that since we don't trust daycares because of the stuff that's on the news, and Hope's been around my kids ever since she moved out here. I've known Hope since daycare basically, and my kids basically love Hope. My daughter will wake up every morning, I want to go see Hope, I want to go see for the boyfriend, and basically always has to check on Hope and love on Hope for the day.
So the children have contact with Hope's boyfriend as well, correct?
I'm sorry?
Your children have contact with Hope's boyfriend too, correct?
Yes, that is their uncle.
Okay. And they see him every day?
He moved back out here when my daughter was 6 months old, and he comes over to the house at least once a day, sometimes more than once a day, just to spend time with them.
And do they enjoy spending time with him?
They love him. If we run out of formula and our car is broken down, he will be the first one to jump in the car and go get what they need. He buys them popsicles and stuff just to spoil them like an uncle would do.
Have you ever seen him act violently towards Hope?
They argue every now and then, but mainly when they argue, they go their separate ways until they calm down, and then they talk about it later. He's never laid hands on Hope.
Are you worried that he ever would lay hands on Hope?
No, he's never been the person that would put hands on women. That's how he was raised. He feels that he should, if he had a problem with a woman, he needs to calm down and talk it out. He does not feel that any woman should have hands put on them by a man.
Are you in a relationship with his brother?
Yes, sir.
And are you married to his brother?
We are talking about getting married in August.
Okay.
But we've been engaged for 4 years.
Okay. And how long have you lived at that residence?
4 years.
Do you have a written lease to live there?
I lived with the dad up until my daughter was a year old, and then we recently got a building that we moved behind the dad's house, and basically we got an agreement that I could move in, and the only thing that I really have to do is basically provide for my kids, which I do with food stamps and their dad working, and I get SSI.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Ms. Wagner
No questions, Your Honor.
and Mr. Van Orden.
Just a few, Your Honor. Ma'am, you just testified that Hope's boyfriend comes over to your house to see your children at least once a day and sometimes twice a day?
Most of the time when he gets off from work, he comes to
I'm
spend
sorry,
time
I
with
hate
my
to interrupt
kids.
you, but it was just a yes or no question. Did you just testify that Hope's boyfriend comes over to your house at least once a day and sometimes twice a day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When does he do that?
When he gets home from work around 7:30, him and Hope come over to spend time with the kids.
So he gets home usually around 7:30?
Yes, sir. Right before he goes to bed.
Okay. And I'm assuming that when your 3-year-old is out on this property, you're watching your 3-year-old. Is that correct?
Right now, she wanted to spend time with her grandma, so she's at her grandma's right now, and my 7-month-old is sleeping.
Okay, so you mean right now today, or has your 3-month-old been away from the home for a while?
No, she's right now, basically, because she likes to run around and be loud, and I didn't want it to be destructive during court.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
And Mr. Smith.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Rooker?
No.
No,
Okay,
Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Elick, call your next.
I call Wendy Perez.
You may proceed.
Please state your name for the record.
Wendy Perez.
And are you the children's godmother and fictive kin?
Yes.
And when this case began, you appeared in court and a home study was, I guess, ordered, correct?
Right. Basically what happened, the judge gave I asked if I could have at least 5 days before the home visit because I was in the process of moving. We had boxes and everything out of order. And the caseworker showed up the very next morning. So I really kind of didn't understand that. And I had somebody show up basically for like unannounced visitor, and they had dogs. So I asked her if we could, do it another day. She said she would say that I was rejecting the home visit. And, then she advised me to remove requests for placement. She just said that they, by looking at the property, this is not going to get approved. And so I was really, after the day before, the court from the day before, I was really concerned because I had no idea that there was anything in the record against me from CPS, because supposedly there's something from 10 or 12 years ago from when my ex-husband and I were getting divorced, and he called in. But I remember a caseworker came out, questioned.
Okay, please stop. So I just try to answer my question, and then we'll kind of get to that. So, do you recall there's an allegation that your minor daughter had a relationship with an adult?
There was no relationship, but I recall an allegation that basically it was somewhere said that I let them hold hands, which is incorrect. That's what it was about.
Okay, so just
that was what the complaint was about.
Okay, so you never let your minor daughter date an adult man?
No.
And did you ever so Hope was a tenant of yours for about 7 months total, correct?
Yes, she lived in another house on my property.
And would you babysit the children occasionally?
Yes. Probably about once a week, at least 1 day to 2 days.
Was Hope, I guess, riding in your car before this case started, and did she open the door while you were driving?
Yes, and there was already an open case. Okay. It was a current case at the time, yes.
Now, did you describe her as suicidal after that?
No.
Okay. Do you believe she was suicidal?
I was asked that question. No, I was asked that question the day they removed the kids, but that's not why they removed. But I was asked that question, and I said that I believe she's been overwhelmed, with a lot going on. She had low hours at work, issues with a different boyfriend at that time, but she had gotten upset. That's why, but it wasn't suicidalness.
Okay. But it was inappropriate for her to open the door while you were driving, correct?
Yes, I was terrified. I mean, at the moment, but that's the only reason I even, spoke of the incident, because I was concerned for her safety. But
did you let Hope pay you in food stamps on one occasion?
That was really kind of reworded and twisted. She gave me food stamps because we were cooking the food for her and the kids in my house, because there's 2 houses on the property she was living in. I lived in one, she lived in another. And we were emptying the house for her and the children to live in. We were preparing it because it had been storage for like 3 years. So she didn't have access to the kitchen. But I did suggest, if she was short on some, and I told her she could cover a little bit of that month. But basically we cooked the food. It went right back to her house with her and her children, because she didn't have access to a stove.
So the food bought with the food stamps actually went to her and her children.
Right. And we actually daily cooked for her and her children for 1 month until we completely emptied the house and she had full access to the kitchen and everything. That was our agreement for that 1 month.
Now, you've seen Hope around the children quite a lot, correct?
Yes. She actually lived in my house at a different time, but yes.
Do you believe Hope is a competent mother?
Yeah, she's capable. She's very capable.
Do you believe the children were neglected under her care?
I think that she needs some guidance, but I don't know if neglect's a word, but she needs guidance. She's young, 3 young children, doing it alone pretty much.
Are you, I guess, someone she reaches out to, for guidance or for help?
Yes, I have been since I believe it's been almost 3 years, two and a half.
So if she were to have to leave the property she lives on now, and if she had her kids with her, I mean, it may not be an ideal situation, but if she reached out to you, would you try to help her?
Yes, Hope knows that she can always call me for help, or she knows that my door's always open as a safe place for her and her children.
And if the court ordered a home study now, would you be willing to let the kids be placed with you now?
Yes, absolutely. I actually rented a 3-bedroom for that purpose, just in case it was needed.
Okay. And let's say hypothetically Hope got her children back. Would you be willing to babysit, from time to time?
Yes, I have discussed with Hope basically that I'm willing to just be there as a support throughout their lives, because I've noticed that she doesn't have strong family like weekly interaction. So that's why I was offering that to begin with. That's why I offered to become the kid's godmother, because I saw that she didn't have that, regularly. So yes.
Since this case has started, you have had very little access or contact with the children, correct?
Right. Yes, it's been very difficult. Considering I saw them every week and gave them their first birthday party and bought their first pair of shoes. Yes, it's been difficult.
Do you think it's in their best interest to have such little contact with you and have such infrequent visits with Hope?
No.
Okay, I pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Wagner?
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, would you say that you're one of Ms. Kellogg's primary supporters?
At the time or currently? I mean, I'm not understanding completely.
Currently, would you say you're a good support for her?
Support, yes.
Okay. Did you hear Ms. Kellogg say that a lot of her issues are related to transportation?
Yes, and I've offered that. So I can't control, if I don't get a phone call. I have offered a ride, and I have picked her up all the way where she lives and brought her to court. The times you've seen me in court, I have brought her usually.
Okay, and thank you for that. If Ms. Kellogg would ask for the help, would you be able to transport her to and from visits at the CPS office?
I've been waiting for that. I was just hoping to be able to visit with the children as well, but she lives an hour away and I offered to pick her up to bring her.
Okay, and would you also be willing to transport her to and from the necessary services she needs to complete?
That depends on how often that is. I also am a caregiver for 2 of my uncles, so I'm willing to look and try to make that work out, but I have no idea. I've not been told that information, so I don't know.
Okay, thank you. I pass the witness.
Mr. Van Orden?
Yes, ma'am. So as I understand your testimony, you have had referrals to the department before, is that correct?
Yes, my ex-husband was doing that when we were getting divorced.
And do you know the outcome of those referrals, what the determination was?
There was nothing, yeah, there's nothing ever found or determined. I'm actually in the process of getting that removed. And it's called a role removal for if something is on a record about you or through CPS and it's incorrect information. I've called Austin. I did this a year ago, right after the court, as soon as it was brought to my attention, because all these years I had no knowledge that it was there. So I called, did my part. They said it could take up to a year to get the records. I don't have the case numbers. So I have to have the case number to have it removed. I've just been in a waiting period, pretty much. But since then, I've rented a 3-bedroom house, just in case there was something, placement needed, or if something didn't go well with the case. So in case that there was placement was needed for the children, that, I would have something more spacious available.
All right.
If it was allowed.
And do you own 2 homes now?
I have a property in Sealy that I did finally pay off, thank God. And I have a property in Wallace that I started buying a year ago. It's project. I'm into the home renovation stuff, fixer upper stuff. So it's kind of an old hotel that I planned to one day live in the future, but I went out of my way to rent a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house because I have things that I've fixer uppers that I've been working on. So
I'm sorry, ma'am, the question might have been a little confusing. You said that before the department was involved, you were allowing the mother to live in one of your homes. Is that correct?
So there's
you were,
homes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
You were in one home and she was in another.
Correct. That's on one property in Sealy on 1 acre. And the reason when you said 2 homes, actually I have 3 because there's 2 houses on 1 acre in Sealy. And I started buying a property in Wallace, Texas, that is an old hotel on 2 acres there. But I don't live on either of those currently. I rented a 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home because I was told that, in case that was needed and, more space for the children, in case they needed somewhere safe. So.
All right, and ma'am, the report that's been filed with the court for this hearing states that you, and however you want to phrase it, you apparently stopped asking the department to be a placement back in January of 2020. Is that correct?
I was advised that, yes. So I did send a text to Deborah and worded it the way she asked me to word it, that it needed to be that I was withdrawing intent for placement.
You've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's the thing. So 13 months ago, for however that happened, you said, no, department don't go through with the home study. However, excuse me, I haven't been involved in this court proceeding before. You were in one of the early court proceedings?
Yeah, only I think the first one where it was brought to my attention about this case. And I was just really, I guess, freaked out and just kind of really concerned and wanting to get that corrected. And I really didn't believe that it would be approved. So I wanted to take care of that. And Deborah told me that I could always enter my intent for placement later. So I believe that, and I went ahead and withdrew intent at that time.
I guess my question, and let me be more specific then, why have you waited 13 months to renew your request to be looked at as a home study?
I have verbally offered that to the lawyer and to Hope, but to my knowledge, basically it was something, I know that the goal is to replace the children with their mother. So that I didn't want to interfere with that. if that's what she wanted and the lawyer, the route they wanted to go, I wasn't interfering because that's not my intent to just take the children from their mother. So I've just been basically, you know, kind of in the background and just available. So.
All right, and have you been telling the mother for some time you were available to take her to her services and counseling and parenting classes, whatever she needed to go to?
We didn't discuss all those services, no, because she said she had a ride for that, but she knows that I care for two of my uncles, but I mean, it could have been discussed if I don't know how often, you know, these appointments are, but for court, she knows that I could take her to that, and I had offered to bring her for visitation for the children once a week. Completely cleared whatever day needed for that. I knew it was important for her case, but.
So unless I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Unless there were an ice storm, every week you could transport her for an in-person visit.
I offered it, yes. Yes.
Well, did she turn you down?
I've asked frequently, is there a visit? Is there, you know, just keep me in the loop is pretty much all I've asked. Keep me in the loop, I'm here. And she said, yes, okay. And she said a lot of them were virtual. And then she stated a lot of them that Deborah had canceled. And so she's messaged me during those times and, you know, expressed her concern and being upset about that. And so.
Do you work, ma'am? Do you work now?
I work at home. I have an uncle that's 70 that lives with me. I've had him from there, got him out of the nursing home 8 years ago. I have him full time. I do have someone that helps with him. And I have another uncle that lives on the property that I moved from, where me and Hope used to live. And he has a room there. He has stage 4 cancer. I take him to his appointments, but I also have someone that takes turns with me, or if I'm not needed there when he does chemo, certain things. So I can move my schedule around.
So, and you would probably agree with most of us that an in-person visit with small children is certainly better than a virtual visit, right?
Yes, definitely.
And you'd be able to take the mother to those visits on a weekly basis?
Yes.
Is that right? All right.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Ron.
Mr. Smith?
One question. How far away do you live from Miss Kellogg?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Thank you. No further question.
All right, anything else for Ms. Perez?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, well, let me get a brief, I guess, closing on everybody's position. Mr. Van Orton?
Judge, could I recall the caseworker for a couple of questions?
Okay,
I'll be brief.
Generally, what would you want to get from her?
Well, Judge, I believe that if the current, I believe they're going to be asking for another home study, and I believe if she has a history with the department, the home study could not be approved. And I just wanted to confirm that with the case.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and kind of give me a closing as to what you're asking for, Mr. Van Orton.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Judge, we're asking that the CASA, the department is feeling very positive about the current placement of the children. We're asking that they remain in their current placement, and the mother continue her services. If we need to set up any additional counseling, I believe that the caseworker indicated she was willing to do that. And we were asking that, I think it's beneficial for everyone, including the children, if there be in-person visits and we have someone who's offering to do that. I think that will be beneficial for everyone, Your Honor, if the mother could visit in person and she has someone who's volunteering to do that with her.
Okay, and Mr. Smith?
It's the father's position that he so wishes to relinquish his rights.
Okay. And Mr. Elick?
Your Honor, I would ask for a home study to be done for Miss Perez's residence. And I would also ask, that the children be given back to Hope, and we kind of see how that goes. And if the court is not inclined to do that, I would ask that the children be moved into Miss Perez's home, assuming that a home study is approved. I've heard that they're thriving there, but if a young girl is pulling her own hair out, the point where a large amount of it, either she has some kind of mental problems or she's not being supervised and someone cut that hair. So I don't necessarily think what's been going on has been in the best interest of the children. They've had not enough contact with their mother, and I know the mother lives an hour away and it's not working and doesn't have a job, but I think that the children would be loved and cared for and fed, and they would be safe. There are other children on that property. I've heard no serious accidents or reports.
Hey, Ms. Wagner?
Your Honor, I would echo the department stance. These children are on their third placement in this case. Their third and their best placement so far. These children are doing phenomenal where they are, and they do not need to be moved. I do have concerns about moving the children back into essentially the care of someone where they were previously removed from. And I do not think we should conduct a home study on Ms. Perez's home, especially if we know that home study cannot be approved by the department. In regards to the children being returned to mother, we have little to no proof that mom has in fact done what she's supposed to do per the court-ordered family plan of service. And that's all, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Smith, how much time have you had?
1.5 hours.
And Mr. Elick, are you appointed or retained in this case?
I'm appointed.
Okay, and how much time have you had?
I've had about 5.5 hours.
And Ms. Wagner?
The same, Your Honor, 5.5.
Okay. And for Ms. Barté, when are we going to want to come back for a placement? Are we looking at May?
Yes, Your Honor, May, and then we are actually set for a trial on this case June 29th. So we'll come back for a final permanency on May 25th, and then the trial is set for June 29th, 2021.
All right, so we'll review placement on May 25th, but for now, I'm going to maintain the children in their current placement and have the mother continue services and continue visits with the mother. We're going to take, in just a minute, we're going to take a short break before we continue. We have Scott and Holmes about how long do we think the Maddox Hill and Brantley Holmes matter will take? Mr. Van
I
Orton?
think that the Hill Holmes matter should be fairly quick. It's a status review issue. And I don't think that there are a lot of issues before the court in that. I think that should go fairly quickly. I've talked to the caseworker today about that.
Okay, I just wanted to get a time estimate right now.
I'd say 15 minutes at the most.
Okay, and then on the Ward, Tarver, Scott?
John Anderson here, Judge, on that. I imagine it's going to be 1.5 hours or better, Judge.
Okay. All right. So let's take about a 10-minute break, and just the people who are involved in those two cases be back. Let's try to be back about 3:45. So if you're not involved in either in that, and I'll look at Ms. Barté. I think those are just those two left. Okay. So anybody that's not involved in either Maddox Hill, Brantley Holmes, or Jamarius Ward, Raisha Tarver, or Kyrie Scott. Everybody else can leave, but if you're involved in those cases, be back at 3:45. In the interest of Maddox Hill and Brantley Holmes, the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Van Orton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name for the court, please?
Chimezi Eke.
And I'm sorry, the last name is pronounced?
Eke.
Eke, I'm sorry, I
But
apologize.
I get different pronunciations, but
Okay. And you are currently the caseworker assigned to Maddox Hill and Brantley Homes, is that correct?
yes, sir.
And in that regard, ma'am, you have prepared and filed with the court a status report, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And does that status report set out the plan of service the department is prepared for the parents so that they can possibly be reunified with the children?
Yes, sir.
And just very briefly, ma'am, Maddox, let me deal with Maddox first. Maddox had some conduct disorders, cruelty to animals, bedwetting, and fire starting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where is he currently placed?
Placed in a facility somewhere in Spring.
But and we can't understand what you said.
He's placed in a facility somewhere in Spring. Sorry.
Okay. Is this a foster facility, a treatment facility?
It's like a group home kind of setting. There are other kids and they have workers there that is assigned to each child.
And he was taking both Prozac and Abilify, is that correct?
Yes, he is.
Is he still on those medications?
Yes.
And also his doctor was recommending one-on-one supervision of him. Is that going on to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And Brantley Holmes, where is he placed?
He is currently placed with a fictive kin.
Is that Miss Nagurski?
Yes, sir.
And he has been there for some time, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he has had serious health problems. In fact, he goes in, I believe, weekly for dialysis. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you been in contact with the mother?
Yes, I have been in contact with her.
And have you gone over with her the department's recommendations for services and programs to help her reunify with the children?
Yes, sir, I've done so.
Do you believe she understands those programs and services?
Yes, sir.
Right now, the programs and services you've set out for the mother, which would include psychological evaluation, counseling, parenting, drug assessment, and testing, those programs and services are all basically here locally in Austin County. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand the mother is currently living in Nueces County, is that correct?
Yes, sir. So if I may say something here, it is not really like based in Austin. It is something that we will coordinate with her to see the services that is close to her and be able to provide it to her.
But the reason that you had set out the local services, I believe, ma'am, you told me, is because she had told you she planned on moving back to this area.
Yes, sir.
Did she give you a time frame on when she would be moving back?
She said within a month. So.
Within a month. And so really, in your mind, it would be appropriate to set out the programs and services here if she planned on moving here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Has she participated in any services yet based upon her location?
No, sir.
Okay. And have you been in contact with the father?
Yes, sir.
And just to hopefully refresh the court a minute, the father is currently on parole for an assault charge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He served 3 years and is currently on parole, I believe, living with a relative.
That's correct.
And were you able to set up, and if he's on parole, he's probably pretty much stuck where he is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you set up services for him in his area, which I believe is San Antonio?
So again, yes, sir, but I did discuss with him and I let him know we would work with him to find resources that is close to him where we can actually, I did mention the services that is needed, but we will work with him to get services to him.
Okay, but you, in talking to him, I believe you also found out he's also engaging in services through parole. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what he said.
And I believe one was anger management. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is he able to have programs and services through parole there where he is?
That is what he told me. Yes, sir.
Is he hoping to be reunified with the children?
Yes, sir.
And is the mother hoping to be reunified with the children?
Yes, sir.
And is that another reason why she intends to move closer to this area?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that the family service plan that you have prepared for the mother and the father is appropriate and will assist them in getting the knowledge and experience they need so that the children can be reunified.
Yes, sir. I do believe that.
And do you believe that the current placement for the children is appropriate, the least restrictive, and in the best interest of the children at this time?
Yes, I do.
Have you met with Ms. Nagurski, the placement for the older child, Brantley?
Yes, I have.
And are there any special services that Brantley needs from the department based upon his illness?
At this time, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Judge, I'll pass the witness at this time.
Okay, Mr. Longoria.
Sorry, Judge. Sorry, Miss Ecke. That was a great question I had. Miss Ecke, I'm Walter Hill's attorney. When did you last speak to him? Do you remember?
It was, I don't have the date in mind, but I can look it up.
No,
it was about last week, like right before the storm started on a Monday.
Okay. Do you happen to have another number for him? I have 210-962-1731.
Let me double check real quick because, so I have 962-1731.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So is that the same one you have?
Yes, ma'am.
So I called him yesterday, but he did not respond up to now, so I do not know. I will keep trying.
And that's fine. And I was happy to hear that you had spoke to him because I called him. I had talked to him before, let's say 3 weeks ago. We talked about a plan. But the problem I had was I called him Thursday or Friday as well as yesterday, and I had not heard back. So I was happy to hear that you had talked to him.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it did seem like he wanted to do the services?
Yes, he did say he wanted to do the services.
And did you talk to him about any type of drug program or having to test clean for you guys?
I did talk to him about that, and he mentioned that he's doing the same for probation. So I told him he would need to do it for us too.
Okay, all right. And I'll pass the witness, Judge. Thank you, Ms. Ecke.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few questions. Ma'am, is it your understanding that Brantley actually has renal disease?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and he's not attending dialysis once per week, but actually 3 times per week, correct?
Yes, so it's 3 times a week. She told me it was Monday and Wednesday, and I believe either Thursday or Friday.
Okay, and is Brantley in desperate need of a kidney transplant?
Say that again. I didn't, the phone broke up.
Yes, ma'am. Is Brantley in need of a kidney transplant?
Yes, that's what I was informed, that he does need one.
And do you have any information on why that cannot occur at this time?
Yes, I did talk to, I think, Miss Road from Texas Children, and she told me that Brantley would have to be in a stable home where they would be sure that he would be there for about 2 years in order to be able to give him, get him, on the list, because with transplant, it needs more attention.
Yes. Is there, I know I'm asking a lot, but is there
fine.
anything the department can do to assist with calming the hospital's fears, since this child does need this transplant?
I believe we can all have a meeting about that. I can address that with my supervisor, and we can all have, like, we call it the FGC, and everyone can like brainstorm and see what we can do, because I do believe that he needs to get on that list as soon as possible.
Okay, and I'm sure you will, but will you make all attempts to coordinate with Ms. Nagurski in regards to setting up whatever appointments he needs if a transplant is granted?
I certainly will. I've been doing that since I got the case. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, and that's my understanding as well. Regarding Maddox, is it possible for the department to arrange phone calls or FaceTime communication between the 2 boys?
Yes, ma'am. That is also what we talked about. I also informed Mom that I'm trying to set up maybe like a Zoom or go to meeting. That way they can all, see each other and talk, at least on weekly basis, even if it's once a week.
Okay, and you said we can do that weekly?
That's what I'm planning to do, yes.
Perfect, thank you. I pass the witness.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes, ma'am. You indicated that services had been prepared for her for Belleville area, for this area, for Austin County, for Miss Holmes.
Yes, because she did mention that she's coming down over here, but I did tell her that we also have CPS office over there. We can connect with whatever resources we have so she can get started. We do not want her to wait until she comes over here to start working her services.
But she's requested service plans herself before that, right?
I'm not aware of that. I just got this case this month, so I do not know.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way you can assure that she continues to have visitation with Maddox?
Yes, that's what I just responded to. I want to set up like a Zoom or GoToMeeting where we can all like have like they can visit with each other like on weekly basis. So I did talk to her about that even this morning.
Yeah, that was one of her concerns, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so as of today, and I believe I received it, there is a service plan in place for her.
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Van Orton, who'd be your next witness, first of all?
Judge, I have no other witnesses.
Okay, and so I know we have a couple other witnesses to hear from, but generally, Mr. Longoria, would you be asking for a change in placement?
Not at this time, Judge.
And Mr. Garvey, are you asking for a change in placement?
No, Your Honor, I want her to do the service plan.
Okay, all right, then. Guess who do we want to hear from? Ms. Brow on the current placement of the children's? Somebody, Mr. Van Orton, do you want to hear from her?
I'd be glad to call the CASA. You know, I think the guardian, the attorney ad litem also wished to hear from her. So.
Okay.
And it's Ms. Brow?
Yes.
And ma'am, you are the court-appointed special advocate assigned to the children. Is that correct?
Correct.
Have you visited with Maddox?
I did. We went to the residential treatment center that he's in, my supervisor and I, and he seems to be settling in well there, doing okay. And I did talk to the caseworker from there today and said overall he's doing really well.
All right. And as to Brantley, have you met with Brantley?
I visited FaceTime with him and placement, just talked to them for a little while after they had their treatment one day. And then we were set to visit last week, but then the ice and all that. So not been there personally.
How would you describe his spirit? Is he cheerful? Is he optimistic? Is he's sad?
Precious. He had just come back from treatment and she said he'd napped and he was so hungry and he was sitting there eating his lunch and kept smiling. And, you know, of course, he didn't really understand what we were saying. We were waving at each other and just meeting for the first time. He didn't know who we were, but no, he was just happy-go-lucky. He looked good.
Is there anything else you feel the department can be doing to assist him with his difficulties right now?
I'm not sure if they have therapy in place for him yet. You know, something, you know, where he can talk through things and, you know, stuff like that. I know Maddox is getting some therapy at his placement where he's at. They do have it, they come in there to work with him, but probably therapy for Brantley as well.
And ma'am, from everything you've seen and read, do you believe these are appropriate placement for the children in their best interest?
I do.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Longoria, any questions?
No questions, Judge.
All right, and Ms. Wagner?
I think they were all covered, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Garvey?
I have no questions, Judge.
Okay. Okay. All right. And let me see, Mr. Garvey, about how much time have you had?
Judge, probably a couple of hours. Well, let's see. Actually, about almost 3 now, plus another hour, Judge.
And Mr. Longoria?
Just today, Judge, just an hour.
Ms. Wagner?
2.5, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And I know Ms. Wagner, you said you wanted to hear from Ms. Nagurski, is there, I guess, what else would she have to add? Nobody's asking for a change in placement today, so.
I don't think there's a need for it at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'll just, maintain this placement where the.
Judge, may I see if Ms. Holmes has anything to add?
Okay.
Ms. Holmes, will you unmute, please?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to what's already been said?
No, I don't think so.
And you're satisfied that they're going to set up visitation with you for Maddox? Because I know that was one of your concerns.
That was my main concern, was being able to talk to the boys.
Okay, so that's all for today for you.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, Your Honor, that's all we have then.
Okay, great. So I'll maintain the current placement, and are we coming back again in May, Ms. Bartay?
Yes, Your Honor, we'll come back for the initial permanency hearing on this case for May 25th.
The 25th, okay. All right, so see everybody May 25th, and yeah, Ms. Holmes will try to get the visitation going with you. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. So now we'll at the Ward, Tarver, and Scott.
We are set on my docket for the status review hearing. However, I believe that Mr. Anderson had filed a motion, I believe maybe style motion for new trial in the form is, I guess, a motion for rehearing of the show cause. I'm not really sure how we're dealing with that today, or if we're dealing with that today, Your Honor.
So Mr. Anderson, what do you have pending?
Judge, we had filed a motion for the new trial, basically wanting to be heard and get some evidence out and to show that Ms. Kennedy is not a harm to these kids. In fact, keeping them away from her, especially this youngest one who's only a few months old, is doing more harm to the child than being away from Ms. Kennedy, or than Ms. Kennedy would be being in her life. And Ms. Kennedy is asking to be the person to take care of her kids. She's the mother of these kids, and one of the fathers is deceased, and she would like to be the one taking care of these kids. And we feel like the department is just slow moving this along to where it puts a even bigger gap between the time that's been elapsed and what she should be doing, which is raising her kids. We've reached out to the care people for Miss Yeager. We've tried to see what we can do to get this moving along, and they want to seem to do a 6-month to a year process, which for a 3-month-old is a long time to be away from their mother. I mean, they ripped this little child out of the mom's hands at a month old and told her to do some stuff, and then got in the way of her being able to do it. And we think the court needs to hear that.
Okay. And so, and how much time do you think you're going to need?
Judge, I'd venture to say we're going to need a couple hours, Judge.
Okay. And so, I mean, we can, now is that going to be for, I guess, the rehearing part of this, or do you want to kind of review the whole adversarial hearing?
Well, I wasn't a part of the first adversarial hearing, and from what I understand, my client didn't even get a chance to say anything. And so we would like to essentially have our day in court and, show to the court that Ms. Kennedy isn't a harm or threat to these kids, and that she's fully capable of taking care of them, and go from there. So whatever the court decides, if they want to put us on a different day here soon to have that hearing, we'd be happy to do it if the court thinks we don't have enough time.
Yeah, and yes, and what's the grounds for the rehearing?
Well, Judge, we feel like the court didn't hear all the evidence. I talked to Miss Yeager, and she didn't even know anything about the drug test that my client took. We don't even have the results. Yet they want to claim that, she uses drugs and she went and did a hair test, and I don't know if anybody has the results yet.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes.
Again, the evidence, I believe, at the show cause was that the the newborn had amphetamines in its meconium, so that certainly is an issue. But again, if we're going to retry the show cause, Your Honor, I will respect the rulings of the court, but that would put the burden back on us. And if we need to do that today, we'll do that, Your Honor. But the mother had an attorney at the show cause, and again, I was not there because I had just started work with the department the day before, so I was not the attorney. I can't tell the court what happened. But apparently the court felt it was sufficient because there were temporary orders entered after the hearing.
Yeah. And Judge, may I respond briefly? I was not there either, so I can't say what was, I'm going based off of what my understanding is from my client as to what happened. The court knows what happened. They were there. However, I do believe that a lot of stuff wasn't administered by the court. I doubt that the person who did the actual test was there to proffer evidence about their report and how they came about this. So it's those types of things that we'd like to get before the court, Judge.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. My issue with this is that she was there represented by a competent counsel. My memory that mom, through her attorney, agreed to the orders, and we had a default in regards to just the dads. The hearing was in regards to just the fathers because we had an agreement with Ms. Kennedy. At the end of the day, Your Honor, this child tested positive in his meconium for drugs. So whether or not mom has a drug test now, that doesn't change the fact that this child had drugs in their system. Also on the date of the hearing, mom was put on the record through her attorney to state that she did not previously comply with the drug testing request due to her religion. She stated that she would thereafter comply and that it was not a First Amendment violation.
I think Mr. Smith is trying to say something. No? Okay. Okay. Well, I want to give Mr. Anderson his chance to present evidence. We're not going to have 2+ hours to do that today. So I guess we have, Ms. Lozano is on this. Can we look at a schedule, throw out some times? Okay, so we can look at kind of a full-blown hearing for April 12th at 1:30, and we'll have a status hearing now and mainly focus on the possibility of visitation, in-person visitation with the mother between now and April 12th. So, Mr. Van Orton, who would you want to call as a witness?
I'd call the caseworker Samantha Yeager, Your Honor.
And Mr. Anderson?
I would call Miss Kennedy and her sister, Catherine Kennedy.
And Mr. Beckworth, do you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
And Ms. Wagner?
Just the CASA supervisor.
And Mr. Smith?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, if I can get those 4 people to raise their right hands. Okay. Do you and each of you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So I hope you got it.
Yes.
All right, and again, we're going to be focusing on the issue of whether or not between now and April 12th there should be in-person visitation. Mr. Van Orton?
And Your Honor, is it my understanding we're also covering the status review today?
Yes, yes.
All right. Ms. Yeager, would you state your name for the court, please?
Samantha Yeager.
And ma'am, you are currently the caseworker assigned to the children, the Ward, Tarver, Scott children, is that correct?
That's correct.
How long have you been involved with their case?
I believe we received TMC on 12/30, and the case was transferred from investigation to conservatorship the early part of January.
All right. Let me start with kind of a brief overview with the children. The oldest child is Jamarius, is that correct? Jamarius Ward?
That's correct.
And how is Jamarius doing at this time?
He continues to struggle. He's made some improvements as far as adjusting to the home, but he has struggled academically. He reads at about a second grade level despite being in fourth grade. Medically, he did come into care underweight, so we've had dietary nutrition counseling. We've also had some dental issues that we've corrected, abscessed, erupted teeth, cracks of teeth, and we've had outcries of sexual abuse.
Okay. So the outcries of sexual abuse by Jamarius, were they made after the department's involvement?
Yes.
Okay. And as a result of those outcries, was he taken to make a statement at some children's advocacy center?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is someone investigating those outcries in conjunction with this case as well?
That's correct.
Have any of the other children besides Jamarius made an outcry of sexual abuse?
The other children are nonverbal. We have seen some sexual behavior in the 16-month-old. But again, as far as outcries are concerned, no, sir, because they're nonverbal.
All right. And let me get to this real quick. Has there been any indication that any of these children have Native American heritage?
No, sir.
And where are the children placed at this time?
They're placed all three together in a foster home.
All right. And are they doing well there together as siblings?
They're doing very well.
Is there an appropriate and loving bond between the siblings?
Yes.
And let me move to the mother. Have you been in contact with the mother, Ms. Kennedy?
I have, fairly frequently.
And have you gone through the family service plan that you have prepared for the mother?
I have not gone through it with her verbally bit by bit, but I have emailed it to her, and she has responded by setting up services with some of the resources that were indicated in the family plan of service.
All right, and that family plan of service for the children and the parents have been filed with the court, is that correct?
That's correct.
And let's get to one of the issues that we've discussed kind of preliminarily, the visitation issue. What is the situation with visitation at this point?
Currently, the visitation schedule is every Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. and it is virtually. Miss Kennedy has adjusted her work schedule. Her shift is 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it's a rotating schedule, but she was able to secure Wednesdays off, so that day works for her, that day and that time.
Okay, so have there been, since you've worked that visitation schedule out, has anyone missed any visits?
Yes, sir. There have been 5 visits scheduled, so over the course of 5 weeks. The department did cancel last week's in response to the inclement weather, the snow, the power outages that we had. But Miss Kennedy has canceled 2 out of 4 of the visits within about anywhere from a 40-minute heads notice to a 2-hour notice after confirming 24 hours before.
Did she give you a reason for canceling those 2 visits?
I believe the first time she said she just wasn't able to. The second time she did say that she got called into work. She is, my understanding, a nurse's aide at a retirement home or nursing home and was called in to work and had to sit with a patient at a hospital.
Has this situation you've worked out at a specific time on a specific day, do you see any additional problems with that?
I don't.
Okay, because she will be able to adjust her schedule to meet that time and day.
That's correct.
That's a stipulation as to what she'll be able to do. He can ask her.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear. Was that an objection? I didn't hear it.
Yes, I had object to speculation as to what Ms. Yeager testifying as to what Ms. Kennedy can do. She'll be a witness.
Objection sustained.
And has the department investigated whether or not in-person visitation would be appropriate in this case?
We have looked at that, but we would like to see some consistent attendance in the virtual before we load children up to a designated site and have those visits canceled, because it's very traumatic, particularly for the 10-year-old to have those visits canceled.
And do the children know now what the visitation schedule is?
The younger two, of course, are too young to understand, but yes, Jamarius has picked up that it is every Wednesday at 4:30, about 20 minutes after he gets off the bus.
All right. And you have sent the family plan to the mother, and you said she responded to that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did she indicate that she would be unable to do any of the programs or services set out by the department?
No, sir, she did not.
And have any of those services been set up so far?
Yes.
And what were those?
She has reached out to our psychologist, Dr. Jenny Stadler, and she scheduled a psychological evaluation for March 6th. She also reached out to Fort Bend Council and Recovery and had scheduled her alcohol and drug assessment for February the 11th. I have not heard back from the provider or Ms. Kennedy if she was able to make that appointment, but she did reach out to those two providers.
All right, and let's go. And so the mother seems, in your observations, does she seem to be cooperative with the department?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go to the fathers. Have you made a family service plan for the fathers, the alleged fathers?
I have.
And do you know whether or not they have received that or not?
I have confirmation from their attorneys that they've discussed the family plan and what the department will be asking. From Mr. Smith. I don't believe Mr. Beckworth has had success in speaking to his client.
All right, and have either of the fathers started any of their services so far?
No, they have not.
And for the court's information, have you checked to make sure there are no other court orders involving these three children? Or have you had that opportunity?
I haven't had that opportunity.
All right. Do you believe that the family service plan that you have prepared for the mother and the fathers is appropriate and designed to help the parents reunify with the children should they respond appropriately to the programs and services?
Yes, I do.
Is that the department's primary goal at this time, to reunify the family?
Yes, it is.
And do you feel that the present placement for the children is appropriate and suitable and in their best interest?
Yes, I do.
I would pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you so much, Judge. Okay, let's go through some of this real quick. You said the department got involved December 30th. Is that correct?
No, sir. I said that we received TMC on December 30th, temporary managing conservatorship.
Okay.
The department was involved prior to that.
What about a week prior? Is that correct? When y'all took the kids on the 22nd?
I'm sorry, I can't testify to investigations.
Okay. But y'all had custody of them prior to the 30th, correct?
Are you referring to physical custody of the children?
Yes, physical custody.
That's my understanding. But again, I'm not the investigator.
Okay. All right. And y'all took custody due to a lab report that supposedly came back with amphetamines in the meconium, correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. It's not in the scope of this hearing.
Okay, yeah, objection sustained. Yeah, we're just, right now we're just doing the status hearing, and then if you want to take up that type of examination on May 12th, we can do it then.
Okay. Mr. Van Orton said that there was other reasons why the department didn't want in-person visitation right now. And one of the issues that y'all brought up was sexual abuse. Is that correct?
The outcry of sexual abuse did not have any impact as to in-person visits versus virtual visits.
Okay, so that has no impact as to whether or not she'd be able to have in-person visits?
That's correct.
Okay, so it doesn't have anything to do with her sexually abusing these children, correct?
In the outcry, the child did not name her as the perpetrator.
Okay, all right. Now, you said that y'all canceled one of the visits, correct?
Yes, last week due to the weather.
Okay, and she let you know that she was working one of the other times, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What have y'all done to look into, you said look into in-person visitation. What have you done to look into that?
I've explained to your client that I'd like to see a consistency in attendance. And then we will, once we get an established attendance with the mother and the children, then we will look into going into in person. And what those will look like would be, of course, exercising all of the COVID precautions as necessary, especially due to the young age of the children.
But don't you think it's detrimental for these kids' health and well-being, especially the 3-month-old, and their bonding with their mom to not have physical contact with their mom?
I do, but I believe there'd be more harm if the children showed up and the 10-year-old did not have his mom show up as well.
Okay, so you're more worried about attendance, correct?
Initially, that's always our concern at the beginning of a case, but I am concerned about the children's medical well-being regarding COVID, yes.
Okay, so if it was supervised, then she had to give a notice requirement that she was going to be there for this to happen, or if she wasn't going to be there, perhaps, that would kind of take care of that, correct?
In theory, sir, but your client has given 24-hour prior notice confirmation each time and then canceled the day of with anywhere from less than 40 minutes prior to the beginning of the visit, which the children would have already been in transport and at the designated location, or within 2 hours, so they would have already been in preparation for attending that visit.
Okay, and if the court set something that said that if she did that visitation in person would no longer exist, would that protect these kids?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
If the court put in place that she could have supervised visitation in person and that she had to give a notice requirement if she wasn't going to make it, and she didn't give any notice, she was going to come, and y'all brought the kids and she did not show up, and then that would cease all visitation in person. Would that protect these kids further? Going further?
I wouldn't say that one missed appointment would cease all in-person visits, because again, we are not here to punish the children or use in-person visitation or any kind of visitation between parents and children as a punishment. It's used to help that relationship stay intact.
So how does distancing the kids from the mother help a relationship stay intact? I'm kind of confused with that.
Distancing in what concept?
I don't know. That was your term, not mine.
So regular attendance and participation, active participation between the parents and the kids in visits helps maintain that bond. If there is not regular participation and attendance in visitation, then that bond can become more fragile, whether it is virtually or in person. So the attendance is the key thing. The mom does need to show up for the visits. It's very traumatic for the 10-year-old when he can't even speak to his mom.
Okay, but you would agree that if she could have in person, that would be more beneficial to the child, especially the 10-year-old, correct?
Correct, as long as she were to show up, yes.
And she has been doing what you've asked her to do. She scheduled something with y'all psychologist, correct?
Correct.
And she also scheduled a drug and alcohol counseling, correct?
Yes, sir, an assessment.
Okay, and I'd like to show you beyond that, she had already completed some courses for parent education and family stabilization. You see that?
I see that it's a certificate of completion. She did ask me if she could take online parenting classes, and I told her that that was not acceptable by the department.
Okay, but she did it anyways, right?
Apparently, according to your certificate, yes, and that's great.
And then she did a drug and alcohol awareness. Okay, and she did that as well, right? So wouldn't you say those are steps that somebody's trying to take to be a part of their kids' lives and be a better part of their kids' lives?
Absolutely.
And don't you think those steps are just as beneficial as the online to show that she wants to do the right thing? She just needs an opportunity from you guys. Would you agree?
she needs an opportunity to do the right thing. Miss Kennedy is cooperating with the department.
Yeah, but to be in these kids' lives, don't you think that she would need that opportunity, the in-person, to show you?
I think it would be beneficial, yes, if she were to make sure that she was there.
Okay. Okay. So as long as Miss Kennedy shows up, we can agree that it would benefit these kids to have in person until the April 12th hearing, right?
If she's consistent in her attendance and is willing to use the proper PPE, then absolutely.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Beckworth.
No questions, Judge.
And so Mr. Smith. Okay, Ms. Wagner.
Just a few, Your Honor. Ma'am, did the mother offer any alternative days or times that would work for her schedule?
No, she did not.
Have you specifically asked her for days and times that would work with her schedule?
I have, and her response was that she had a floating schedule. So she didn't know from week to week what those days were. Then she countered back and said that she had spoken to her boss and she was able to secure Wednesdays off.
Okay, so you feel that the Wednesday possession that you have put in place should work for her schedule?
Yes.
Okay. However, she still missed 2 out of the 4 visits that you did not cancel.
That's correct.
Okay. So Jamarius, does he go by Jay?
He does.
Okay. And how does Jay react when his mother cancels the visits?
Objection, speculation.
Okay. Objection's overruled.
He's very upset. He's very angry. He's very withdrawn. Usually he will act out in school the following day.
Okay. And do you get the same behaviors when
I'm sorry, you cut out. Do I get the same behaviors when
there is a visit that takes place?
No, I don't.
Okay. So you're not denying that mom is, a good influence on the child.
That's correct.
Okay. However, do Jay's behavioral issues after mom no-shows, does that concern the department?
It does.
And do you think that those behavioral issues would be exacerbated if the visits were in person and Jay had to be transported back and forth?
Objection, speculation.
Objection's overruled.
I think Jay would be devastated.
Okay. And where do the kids live right now? What city?
Missouri City.
Missouri City. And where would the visits take place if they were in person?
I believe the most mutual site would be Hempstead.
And do you know how far it would be to transport these children?
I think roughly it's an hour one way.
And I know I'm boxing you in a corner here, but how many consistent periods of visitation would you like to see before we step up to in-person visits?
I would like to see 4. I think, 4 consistent weekly visits does start a pattern, both with mom setting boundaries with her job and letting them know that that's a protected time, but also it builds trust with the children, particularly Jay, that mom's going to be there.
Thank you, Ms. Yeager. I pass the witness.
Okay. And when is the next visit that's scheduled right now?
Tomorrow, 4:30 to 5:30.
All right. And Mr. Van Orton, do you have anybody else you want to call?
No, Your Honor, not for the purpose of this hearing, no.
Okay. And Mr. Anderson.
I'd call Miss Kathleen Kennedy.
You may proceed.
Miss Kennedy, can you state your name for the record, please? You're gonna have to speak up.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Because Miss Lozano's taking everything down, and so we need to make sure she can hear us, okay? All right. And you are the mother of the 3 children that were mentioned, Jamarius, Breasia, and Kyrie, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the children were taken from you around December 22nd, correct? The 28th, okay. And you heard us talk a lot about the missed visits and what's in the best interest for the kids until April 12 and whatnot. What is your work schedule like?
Well, we don't, it's like every other week we ain't on the same day. It's just like it changes. It's like somebody might call in or somebody might get called in to work. So we're very short-handed. We only got 3 people working 2 to 10.
Okay. And how long ago did you start this job?
Started on January the 25th.
Okay, so you've been there not even a month. Okay. And do you have a certain day off every week?
No.
So
every week I get a different day off. But when I was asking my caseworker, Ms. Yeager, like, hey, I can't have every Wednesday off. Because the other people want Wednesdays off. So, but my DON let me have Wednesday off, and she's trying to work with me. But at the same time, it's like other people want to have Wednesday off. And from 1:30 to 5:30, we're feeding during that time. So I
feeding
just
who?
The residents.
Okay, and where do you work at?
Coney Bell Nursing Home in Sealy.
Okay, it's a nursing home in Sealy?
Yes.
Okay. And so you said y'all are feeding the residents at that time?
Yes, sir.
So does that make it pretty hard to do the 4:30 to 5:30 in the middle of your feeding shift?
Correct.
Is that why you missed the 2
Yes,
appointments?
because when I went in, I need money. Like, they want me to have a job, and I still need to pay my bills too. So one of the Wednesdays I did go in to help out because we were shorthanded.
Okay, so they asked you to come in
Yes.
because you were shorthanded?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How far in advance notice do you have your schedule?
She'll put it out from the 1st to the 15th.
So from the 1st to the 15th, you know your days off, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if they put it out on the 1st and the 15th, you would be able to get with Ms. Yeager and say, hey, these are my days off. Can we do this day if it was in person, and you would be there?
Yeah.
Do you have a car?
Yes.
Okay. Does it run properly?
Yes.
There's no mechanical issues. Okay. So if they told you you needed to be somewhere.
Mr. Anderson, real quick, I'm not hearing the answers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you speak up?
Yes.
Okay. So if they told you that you had a visitation that day in person and y'all scheduled it ahead of time, then you can make that, correct?
Yes.
Let's see. Are you off this Wednesday?
Yes.
And what is your other day off?
I don't have another day off this week.
No. Other than this Wednesday, the following week, what's your day off?
Wednesday.
Okay, so right now you have it set where Wednesdays are your day off.
Wednesdays are off. But they asked me the other day, could I give up some of my Wednesdays so another co-worker can have that Wednesday off?
Did you purposely not call Miss Yeager until the last minute whenever you missed?
Ms. Yeager texted me in the morning and asked me on that Wednesday is I'm going to attend visit that day. And I get back with her a couple of hours later and I'm like, yes, because I can at that time. But the Wednesday before, I was with one of the clients at the hospital. And I thought I would have been at the hospital, in time for my visit. I let her know, like, 4:45 that I couldn't make it.
Do you try to give her as much notice as you can?
Yes.
Do you think it would be in your kid's best interest to have a couple in-person visits before April 12th?
Yes.
So that way the court can see that you are able to do in-person visits and you are able to maintain those successfully?
Yes, sir.
Do you think it would help the court to know that you're serious about this and you're not going to just ditch out on it?
Yes, sir.
And have you gone and taken extra steps with the certificate and taken these classes online to show the department that you want to change everything and be better?
Correct, yes, sir.
And where are you currently living at?
20 South Mechanic Street here in Belleville.
Is it an apartment?
Yes, 32.
Okay. And how long have you had that apartment?
I moved in with my sister.
Okay. And does your sister have any kids?
She has one that stays out of state.
Okay. All right. So no kids live there other than y'all two. Okay. Pass the witness.
Mr. Beckworth?
No questions, Judge.
And Mr. Smith?
Questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Wagner?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, who's your next?
Your Honor, I'm sorry, may I have a chance to cross-examine?
I'm sorry, Mr. Van Orn. I skipped over you. You may proceed.
I'll be brief. Ma'am, have you gone through the family service plan that the department has prepared?
Yes, I looked through it, yes. And I have got in contact with, for drug and alcohol and evaluation.
All right, and did you understand the programs and services they've set out for you to participate in?
Yes.
And other than possibly your work schedule, do you see any problems trying to complete those courses?
No, sir.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Anderson, who's next?
Judge, I was going to call Ms. Kennedy's sister, but for the purposes of this hearing, I don't think I'll need to. So we'll just close right now.
All right, so Ms. Wagner, do you have the witness you want?
Yes, I would just like to hear from CASA in regards to visitation, if I may.
Okay, you may.
Ms. Howell, would you state your name for the record, please?
Tracy Howell.
Okay. And how are you related to the case?
The CASA supervisor.
Okay. And have you heard the testimony today in regards to visitation, virtual versus in person?
Yes, I have.
And what is CASA's stance on this?
I agree with Ms. Yeager that it's important to establish consistency. 4 weeks in a row does establish a pattern, and after that to go to in-person, but four weeks consecutively of virtual visits, and then after that in person.
Okay, do you have any concerns about the in-person visits?
That they would be supervised.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Howell. I pass the witness.
So, Mr. Smith, any questions for Ms. Howell?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Van Orton?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Anderson?
Briefly, Judge. Ms. Howell, have you visited the kids?
I haven't. Placement wants virtual visits. We're trying to work out how she would be comfortable with in-person visits. But I visited them virtually, and I observed one of the parent-child visits with mom.
How did you observe that if it's virtual?
Well, it's on the platform. I'm able to observe it and shut my camera off.
Okay, so it's kind of like this Zoom hearing.
Exactly, but I think it's go-to meetings or something.
Okay, all right. And was Ms. Yeager on those meetings as well?
She was.
Okay, all right. No further questions, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Beckworth?
Just one. Ms. Howell, to your knowledge, have you or anybody else from CASA been able to contact Mr. Scott?
No.
Nothing further.
I haven't tried. I don't have contact information for him.
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay. And Mr. Beckworth, how much time have you had on this case?
I had an hour and a half plus this afternoon.
And Ms. Wagner?
3 hours, Your Honor.
And Mr. Smith?
An hour and a half, Your Honor.
All right. Well, then, as far as the status review of the case, I'm going to approve this service plan that's been submitted and order that the previous orders will continue until we can have a more full-blown hearing and hear Mr. Anderson's motion for new trial on April 12th. And so for now, we'll keep the virtual visits. And if I understand, let me see here, the caseworker that the idea is to have 4 of the virtual visits in a row and then see about setting up an in-person visit?
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. IT just did an auto shutdown on my computer. So I've saved it with the phone, but that's what I would like to see, Your Honor.
Okay, so we know the next visit is tomorrow, and then so Miss Kennedy, you make those 4 visits in a row, and then CPS will see about setting up a virtual, a in-person visit, and that should be in March.
Yes, sir.
If I'm doing looking at my calendar right, yes, it'd be, March 24th could be a in-person visit with the children.
Yes,
all right.
Okay. Judge, can I ask a question for clarification?
Yes.
So are you granting the motion for new trial today, or
No.
when we reconvene, will we have the motion on the new trial and then a new setting for the new trial?
Right. The second option is what we're going to be doing.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Ms. Barté.
Yes, Your Honor. Could Mr. Anderson email us Ms. Kennedy's new address? I don't want it to go out over YouTube again, but if he could email us that her new address so that we can make sure all her documents are going to the correct mailing address.
Yes, Judge, we can take care of that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So nothing else then. The status is approved, and then we come back on April 12th at 1:30. All right. Nothing else. You're all excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Terry,